There is something no one really tells you about comfort. Comfort is not neutral. It feels harmless, it feels mature, it feels responsible. But comfort is a direction. And if you don't consciously choose your direction, comfort will choose it for you. Most people don't destroy their potential through chaos. They destroy it through slow compromise, through choosing what feels easier today over what would strengthen them tomorrow. And the most dangerous part is, it doesn't feel like self-betrayal. It feels like stability. So today I want to explore why comfort becomes a trap, and more importantly, how to escape it. Let's start with the Austrian psychotherapist Alfred Adler. Adler believed something radically different from Sigmund Freud. Freud focused on the past. Adler focused on direction. He argued that we are not primarily shaped by where we come from. We are shaped by where we are trying to go. And this changes the entire conversation, because most people justify their comfort through their past. I was raised to value security. I've always been anxious. I'm just not someone who takes risks. Now, Adler would say that's not destiny. That's interpretation. You are not driven by your trauma. You are driven by your goals, even your unconscious ones. And sometimes your hidden goal isn't growth, it's safety. Adler introduced the concept of fictional finalism. It means that we all operate toward an imagined future ideal, an eternal narrative of who we must become in order to feel secure. For some people, that fictional goal is, I must never fail, I must never disappoint, I must never look foolish, I must always appear competent. Now think about what kind of life you build if that's your guiding goal. You don't build a courageous life, you build a safe one. You don't build a life aligned with truth. You build one optimized to avoid shame. And that's where comfort becomes a strategy, not rest, a strategy. Adler also talked about inferiority. Every human being starts life feeling small, dependent, limited, not enough. And from that inferiority, we begin striving for competence, for mastery, for significance. But there is where it splits. Healthy striving says, I will grow stronger. Unhealthy striving says, I will avoid feeling weak. Comfort often hides in the second one. If I stay in a predictable job, I don't have to face my limits. If I don't do the thing I secretly want to do, I don't have to risk being bad at it. Comfort protects the ego, but it suffocates the self. And here is something important. Adler didn't believe that we are doomed by our past. We are creative beings. We create our style of life. Your style of life is the consistent pattern of how you approach problems, relationships, ambition, or fear. And most people adopt a very cautious style early. Not because they're incapable, but because it reduces anxiety. But reducing anxiety is not the same thing as living a meaningful life. You can have low anxiety and low aliveness. You can have stability and silent dissatisfaction. And that's the trap. For a long time, there was something I knew I wanted to do. Not something reckless, just something that felt aligned with my way of being. I wanted to create. I wanted to speak. I wanted to build something that came from me, and I kept standing at the edge of it. I was so close. I would think about it, plan it, imagine it, almost start, but I didn't. Not because I didn't care, because I cared too much, because there was shame in it. Shame that maybe it wouldn't work. Shame that people don't take it seriously. Shame that I would look naive for even trying. So I stayed where I was safe. I stayed in a version of my life that was socially understandable. And what's interesting is this: nothing was stopping me. No one was physically holding me back. The only thing between me and that next step was discomfort. That moment at the edge, that first visible action. And then one day I did it. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't dramatic. It was one small, uncomfortable step. And what shocked me was this: the step itself was the hardest part, not the aftermath. Once I crossed that invisible line, everything began to move. New ideas came, new confidence grew, new opportunities opened. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because I changed. And this is something people underestimate. Often your life doesn't need a massive transformation. It needs one brave moment at the edge. After that, momentum builds. Your brain recalibrates. Neuroplasticity is real. The moment you survive discomfort, your nervous system updates its definition of what is safe. What once felt terrifying becomes normal, and then your comfort zone expands. That first step was not a breakthrough. It was the permission. Comfort optimizes for short-term relief. Growth optimizes for long-term strength. If you consistently avoid discomfort, your tolerance shrinks. If you voluntarily face small discomfort daily, your capacity expands. And this isn't motivational language. It's biological. Your nervous system adapts to what you repeatedly expose it to. If you avoid difficulty, you shrink your comfort zone. If you face difficulty, you expand your comfort zone. The trap isn't comfort itself. It's chronic avoidance of challenge. Let's bring in the Stoics for a moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." The Stoics weren't obsessed with comfort. They were obsessed with character. And they understood something deeply practical. You cannot control uncertainty, but you can control your response to it. Comfort tries to control the outside, whereas growth strengthens the inside. Epictetus would say, it's not a situation that disturbs you. It's your interpretation. Discomfort is neutral. Your judgment of discomfort creates suffering. The Stoics practice a voluntary hardship, cold exposure, simple foods, minimal living, not to punish themselves, but to remind themselves, I can survive without constant ease. That builds psychological independence. And independence is the opposite of the comfort trap. Most people don't fear failure. They fear uncertainty. Uncertainty is destabilizing. You don't know the outcome. You don't know how others will react. You don't know if you'll succeed. But certainty is stagnation. Uncertainty is possibility. Arthur would say that courage is the willingness to be imperfect. And imperfection is unavoidable at the edge of growth. If your fictional goal is, I must appear flawless, you will always choose comfort. If your fictional goal is, I will become stronger, you will choose challenge. Your goal determines your path. Instead of asking what feels safe, ask what kind of person do I want to become? Not what job, not what image, what traits. Do you want to become disciplined? Then resistance is not a sign to stop. It's training. Do you want to become courageous? Then discomfort is not an obstacle. It's necessary exposure. Do you want to become independent? Then approval cannot be your compass. Discomfort is not evidence that you're wrong. It can be evidence that you're growing. One of the biggest shifts I made was this. I stopped treating discomfort as meaningful. Discomfort is information, not authority. It tells you this is new. It does not tell you this is wrong. When you filter every decision through comfort, your world shrinks. When you filter it through growth, your world expands. Now here's something practical. For the next 30 days, do something daily that sits at the edge of your comfort zone. Not something extreme, but something very specific. Send a message, share the idea, apply for the opportunity, say no when you usually comply, wake up earlier to build what matters, post that reel on Instagram without thinking about what your friends might think. It must feel slightly uncomfortable. That's how you know it's at the edge. And here's what happens. Your brain begins to associate discomfort with survivability. Your identity shifts and you stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates. You start seeing yourself as someone who acts. Identity precedes confidence. Confidence follows repeated evidence. And evidence comes from action, not from thinking. Let's come back to Adler one more time. Your life follows your hidden goal. If your hidden goal is safety, you will unconsciously choose comfort over and over again. If your hidden goal becomes growth, you will tolerate discomfort as part of expansion. By changing the goal, you change the direction. You are not doomed by your past. You are guided by your aim. So ask yourself honestly, is your goal protection or development? Comfort whispers, wait until you're ready. Growth says, you become ready by moving. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control direction. You cannot control uncertainty, but you can control whether you step forward anyway. The present is your only leverage. Adler believed that we are self-determining, which means every day you reinforce either the identity of avoidance or the identity of expansion. Comfort will always be available. Growth will not. Your past doesn't define you. Your daily direction does. And sometimes the only thing between you and a completely different version of your life is one uncomfortable decision you've been postponing. The edge is not dangerous. Stagnation is. And once you take that first step, you will realize something surprising. The fear was louder than the reality. And the moment you move, the world begins to rearrange itself around a version of you who decided to grow. If this resonated with you, reflect on where you might be choosing comfort over alignment. And if you want more conversations like this about psychology, identity, and the inner architecture of a meaningful life, I'd be very happy if you leave a subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.